With me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas comes from Pakistan. The TTP has declared a 360-degree war against the Pakistan Army with far-reaching implications. What does that mean for the country? On Gravitas tonight, we unravel the many layers to what's happening on the ground and get you the bigger picture. That's coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, we get you the latest on China's HMPV outbreak. What has the WHO said? Should you be worried? Canada is at the cusp of a major political change, with reports saying that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is likely to announce his resignation. What's really brewing? We tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about Pakistan, where the TTP has declared a 360-degree war against the Pakistan Army. You're hearing that correctly. The Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, has warned Pakistan that it is ready to target Pakistan military and Pakistan military-run enterprises. In fact, the TTP has also issued a warning to Pakistan's political parties, particularly the leadership of the Pakistan Muslim League, to stay away from its conflict with Pakistan's security forces. Not just that, the TTP has also set an ultimatum for the public: disconnect from military enterprises within 3 months as it targets military institutions in Pakistan. Clearly, there's a lot going on. In a statement released by the TTP spokesperson, Mohammad Khorasani, the group said that its targets are exclusively the country's security institutions and their associates, while the Pakistani Taliban maintains that its primary goal is Pakistan's security agencies. It has emphasized that the military's economic interests are a crucial source of its power. And how does the TTP intend to carry out or combat it? The group has declared that it will begin targeting military-run enterprises. The TTP spokesperson specifically named the following military enterprises: NLC, FWO, 4G Cement, 4G Fertilizers Company, FFC, Askari Cement, Pakistan Ordnance Factory, POF, 4G Foundation, 4G Foods, Askari Fuels, DHA, and Askari Bank, etc. These are the potential targets on the TTP's radar. The TTP has warned the people: withdraw shares from these enterprises within 3 months, else the burden of any kind of loss does not fall on the people of Pakistan. Not just that, shops that have army products have also been given 2 months. Vendors have been told to discard any or all military products within 2 months. If even after 2 months military products are found in their stores, orders will be issued to the Mujahideen to burn these products or in any way destroy them. And this should be discarded. And similarly, the vehicles that will deliver these products will also be burnt. Can you imagine that? And it also takes issue with the PML leadership. Using language and tone similar to that of the Pakistan Army, it's important to note that the TTP views the Pakistan Army as an adversary. The TTP has, in fact, urged the ruling parties to stay neutral in the conflict between the group and Pakistan's security institutions. The TTP has warned that failure to do so may lead to the TTP targeting PML leadership and other riotous elements. The Taliban's warning comes amid ongoing tensions between the TTP and the Pakistani government. In the statement, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan has also announced its intention to expand its list of targets to include economic institutions with ties to the Pakistani military. In short, the TTP has just declared a war against the Pakistan Army. The Shehbaz Sharif-led government has remained unapologetic. Last Friday itself, Shehbaz Sharif said that the government was committed to eliminating the TTP to ensure the country's socio-economic development. According to Pakistan media, Sharif has asked the federal government, the provincial government, and all relevant stakeholders to make a comprehensive plan in collaboration with the security forces. Just last month, Pakistan conducted airstrikes inside Afghanistan, which it said targeted TTP hideouts. While Pakistani officials told media that several senior TTP leaders were killed, the Afghan Taliban that controls Afghanistan said that attacks caused several civilian casualties. But for all of their words, Pakistan has failed in ending the rising level of violence and lawlessness in the areas of Pakistan bordering Afghanistan. We are talking about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. The latest round of Pakistani airstrikes coming just days after Pakistan lost 16 soldiers in an attack by the TTP along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. But terror attacks have only increased in Pakistan since the TTP broke a fragile ceasefire agreement with the Pakistan government. At least 685 members of Pakistani security forces lost their lives in a total of 444 terror attacks. According to Pakistan media, 2024 turned out to be the deadliest year for civil and military security forces of Pakistan in a decade. But instead of dealing with the situation head on, Islamabad has been shying away from talks with the TTP. The airstrikes may have shut the diplomatic window on that one. Still, if talks with the TTP are off the table, Pakistan's government will need to take a strong approach towards counter-terrorism. But considering checkered history with conducting talks with terror groups and lack of success, we wouldn't bet on that. Sure, the Pakistan government could place greater emphasis on better governance, the rule of law, social justice, empowering citizens in border areas. However, this is Pakistan we are talking about after all. When was the last time you heard of Pakistan achieving success in its counter-terrorism strategy? And that leads us to the next part of the story. The Taliban has declared a war against the Pakistani military institutions. This comes as no surprise. In Pakistan, the political leadership does not have control over the country. It is the powerful military generals who hold the reins. The Pakistan Army is the true puppet master. And the puppet master runs a multi-billion-dollar business empire, it seems. This is how the Pakistan Army has become more powerful than Pakistan itself. According to reports across the Army, Navy, Air Force, estimates put the value of the military's business empire at more than $100 billion. Just to put it simply, in Pakistan, it's difficult to do business without making the military generals richer. Your morning tea, it might be sourced from Nurpur farms. And who holds ownership, you ask? The military. What about milk? It comes from the same source. Craving a lamb curry, perhaps? The lamb and potatoes that accompany it are supplied by commercial farms run by Fauji Fresh in freeze, also military owned. And this, by the way, extends beyond food. If you are interested in shares, say, on the Pakistan Stock Exchange, consider the military-run investment bank Foundation Securities in Karachi. Profits could be deposited in your account at Askari Bank in Islamabad, which is another military-owned entity. You get the gist. The gas for your stove, the cement used to make homes, the electricity, the fuel, transportation, educational institutions, hundreds of business entities in sectors of the economy competing with the private sector controlled by the Pakistan Army. In fact, Pakistan's military runs close to 100 different businesses. Just think of Pakistan's military as a holding company in a way, a company with several subsidiaries. The military runs 6 so-called foundations: the Fauji Foundation, the Army Welfare Trust, the Army Welfare Trust, etc. These foundations own various businesses and companies, which are typically managed by serving and retired military personnel, often represented by civilians. And what do they do with the profits? They reinvest it into military welfare activities. However, a significant portion is usually set aside for senior military officials before anything else is allocated. In short, Pakistan's generals, admirals, air marshals have enriched themselves by running the biggest conglomerate of Pakistan, and that is the real story of why and how the Pakistan Army is so powerful. Our next story is about Xi Jinping's $85 billion dream city. It is struggling to find residents. We are talking about China's Xiong'an. Now, if one were to read the promotional literature on this futuristic city, it may come across as a model city in the history of human development. But then again, what is a city without people? That's the story of Xiong'an. It was supposed to be Xi Jinping's legacy project for China, but right now it is lifeless, soulless. But why exactly and what's going on? You see, China's increasingly sophisticated urban youth, which is its target market. Xiong'an does not excite, they call it boring. For the Chinese youth, Xiong'an has no social life, not enough opportunities for leisure or, for that matter, socializing. In Xiong'an, the city is well established, the traffic flows smoothly, thanks to a network of buried fiber optic cables, everything from facial recognition systems to self-driving cars operating. However, residents are reluctant to move there. The futuristic city project was launched on Xi Jinping's personal initiative as an urban mega project in 2017. In fact, it was supposed to be China's answer to a very modern global problem, overpopulation. As people flock from all over the country to Beijing and other Chinese metropolises, Xiong'an was supposed to be the answer to the huge growth in the population of major cities. Years later, the Chinese premier is now trying to reassure investors as well as Chinese citizens that $85 billion that has been spent on this place is more than a ghost town. Reports saying that the authorities have announced a new city management system. It is an apparent attempt to inject some rigor into the development. The city management will comprise 4 district committees and 21 municipal departments, all under the purview of 25 government agencies. But the problem with Xiong'an is that it is being seen as an elite project. Xiong'an is being developed as a hub for high-quality, green, tech-focused enterprises, avoiding traditional factories. Major government departments and state-owned companies like the China Satellite Network Corporation are relocating there. Universities, including Beijing's University of Science and Technology, will establish branches in Xiong'an, along with key hospitals and schools. In fact, the city aims for a balanced architectural style, avoiding skyscrapers, and will have strict rules against property speculation. Residents must live in the flats they buy. Motivational slogans highlighting its long-term national significance. But here's the thing, its target audience, the youth, they prioritize immediate social opportunities. Eating out, meeting, or even karaoke. Furthermore, local businesses are tempted by government rent subsidies. But many employees prefer the vibrant social scenes of bigger cities like Beijing, for that matter, which is only an hour away by high-speed rail. And despite a state-reported population of 1.2 million, Xiong'an's eventual goal is to house 5 million. They enjoy social activities like dating, yet ultimately the project's success depends on China's economic recovery and changing demographic trends. Moreover, considering that China's population is now in decline following several decades of the one-child policy, it's possible that by the time the project is completed, the very issues that Xiong'an was originally designed to address may no longer be relevant. And our next story is about China's mysterious virus outbreak. A virus called the human metapneumovirus, or HMPV, is spreading in China. Its flu-like symptoms are similar to COVID-19. On Friday, we asked, why is China silent on the outbreak? And tonight we are asking, is China hiding something about the virus outbreak? You see, China is dealing with an outbreak of the human metapneumovirus 5 years after the COVID-19 pandemic. Reports and social media posts, in fact, suggesting that the virus is spreading rapidly. You might have come across videos shared online claiming to show scenes similar to the COVID-19 outbreak 5 years ago. Of course, we all remember how that turned out. It turned into a global pandemic and led to over 7 million deaths globally. Now, some Chinese social media users are saying that multiple viruses, including influenza A, HMPV, and COVID-19, are circulating. And what is China saying? Not much. China calls the HMPV outbreak winter occurrence. Beijing issued a press statement to address such concerns. On Friday, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that respiratory infections tend to peak during the winter season, but that has done nothing to allay fears. China's neighboring countries are on high alert. In India alone, 3 new cases of HMPV have been reported on Monday. In Bengaluru, a 3-month-old baby who has been discharged and an 8-month-old who is recovering at a hospital in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. A 2-month-old boy was reportedly detected with HMPV. But authorities are urging people to not panic. You see, HMPV is not new. It has been around for decades. According to India's top medical body, ICMR, HMPV is already in circulation in the world, including in India. The Indian Council of Medical Research has assured that India is well equipped to handle any potential increase in respiratory illnesses. Indian authorities are, in fact, urging people to not panic. On Monday, the Karnataka government assured that there was no cause for alarm. They said that HMPV is already present in the country. Karnataka's State Health Minister has said, and I'm quoting here, "I don't think we should be pressing the panic button because HMPV is not a new virus. It already exists." Reports suggest that it is the first case of HMPV in India. It's not true because HMPV is an existing virus and a certain percentage of people do get affected by this virus, and it's not something new, quote unquote. But here's why people are terrified of China's virus outbreak, and it's being talked about. Number one, there are no specific antiviral therapy or vaccine to prevent HMPV. Number two, China's Center for Disease Control has warned people to take precautions with health and hygiene, and also pushed back against online claims of overwhelmed hospitals and fears of another COVID-like pandemic. COVID-19 also broke out in China under innocuous circumstances. Remember, the world is still reeling from that decision that Beijing took. Naturally, questions are bound to rise. Do we know enough about this new virus? The symptoms of HMPV are similar to a cold or flu. It's one of the several viruses often lumped under a broad definition of the common cold. But it's not a notifiable disease like COVID-19 or influenza. They are not notifiable because they are very common and lots of people get them. You fall sick for a few days, but with rest you get better. And who is most at risk, you ask? HMPV can lead to more serious illnesses like bronchitis, pneumonia, especially among elderly people, very young children, and people who are immunocompromised. And that is exactly why it's important that people know it's out there. Sure, HMPV is not like COVID-19. It has been around for several decades, and there is a level of immunity in the global population from past infections. So what does one do about it? Practice good hygiene. Experts have urged people not to go to work while sick. Wear a mask. If you do have to go into the community, wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. These are small habits that can go a long way and prevent the spread of infections, especially for those at higher risk. Unlike COVID-19, which was a new disease which had never infected human beings before, HMPV has been around for decades. But that's not why there is concern, is it? It's the surge in cases reportedly and the impact it's having that need to be taken into account. A good lesson from the COVID-19 pandemic would be to reduce the spread, especially as we don't have vaccines or antivirals for HMPV. We can educate ourselves, take precautions. Also, there is need for absolute transparency, which is no longer an option. It is a necessity. In fact, earlier in the day, we reached out to the World Health Organization, WHO, on China's outbreak. And here's the response we got, quoting from it. The Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention publishes weekly reports on its monitoring of influenza-like illnesses. The latest from 2nd January in Chinese is here, and that link is mentioned. It has been 458 days since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war that has claimed over 46,000 lives in Gaza, nearly 900 Israeli soldiers. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a devastating attack on Israel, taking 251 hostages. Since that fateful day, negotiations for a potential exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners have remained elusive, with no resolution in sight. Both Israel and Hamas have repeatedly accused each other of sabotaging the peace talks, each side blaming the other for the failure to reach a resolution. In fact, on Monday, Israel revealed that Hamas is yet to provide any update on the status of 34 hostages the group had previously claimed it would release as part of the first phase of a potential exchange deal. For months, mediators from Qatar, Egypt, the United States have been working tirelessly to broker a resolution to the conflict in Gaza. Recently, these mediators resumed indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas, even as Israeli forces continue their intense assault on Gaza. In a statement, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office declared, and I'm quoting here, "As of now, Israel has not received any confirmation or comment from Hamas regarding the status of the hostages listed, quote unquote. This comes after a Hamas official reportedly provided a list of captives the group was willing to release. The outgoing U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, however, voiced confidence that a ceasefire deal in Gaza would come together, but possibly after President Joe Biden leaves office.
So what I can tell you is this. We very much want to bring this over the finish line in the next 2 weeks, the time that we have remaining. And we will work every minute of every day of those 2 weeks to try to get that to happen. If we don't get it across the finish line in the next 2 weeks, I'm confident that it will get to completion at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. And when it does, it will be on the basis of the plan that President Biden put forward and that virtually the entire world supports.
Late on Sunday, a senior Hamas official told AFP the group had agreed to release 34 Israeli prisoners from a list presented by Israel as part of the first phase of a prisoner exchange deal. The official, requesting anonymity, said the initial swap would include all the women, children, elderly people, and sick captives still held in Gaza. He also said that Hamas needs a week of calm to communicate with the captors and identify those who are alive and those who are dead. Interestingly, Hamas earlier had released a non-dated propaganda video of a 19-year-old hostage, Liri Albag. In the 3.5-minute-long video, Albag, a surveillance soldier, states that she has been held for over 450 days, indicating it was filmed recently. Albag, stationed at the Nahal Oz post, was abducted along with 6 others by Hamas on October 7. One was rescued and another was recovered dead after she was murdered in captivity. The other 5, including Albag, are still hostages. Israel has condemned previous such videos of hostages as psychological warfare by Hamas. During their October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, which began the Gaza war, Palestinian rebel groups seized 251 hostages, of whom 96 remain in Gaza. The Israeli military saying 34 of those are dead. Since the war broke out, there has been only one truce in November 2023 that saw 80 Israeli hostages freed in exchange for 240 Palestinians released from Israeli jails. Neither Israel nor Hamas have provided concrete details about the latest round of talks in Doha. However, over the weekend, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz informed the relatives of a hostage that negotiations are ongoing. The time, however, is quickly running out for the families of the hostages, you see. The Israeli campaign group, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, has called for a comprehensive agreement to ensure the release of the captives. In a statement, the forum emphasized, and I'm quoting here, "We know that more than half are still alive and urgently need rehabilitation, while those who have been murdered must be returned for proper burial. We have no more time to waste. A hostage ceasefire agreement must be sealed now," quote unquote. They are demanding answers to a crucial question. Who is obstructing the truce deal? Netanyahu or Hamas? As winter's grip tightens, a dramatic escalation unfolds on both sides of the Russia-Ukraine border. While Moscow celebrates capturing the strategic town of Korokhove, Ukrainian forces launch a bold counter-offensive into Russia's Kursk region. Our next story takes a closer look at the changing battlefield dynamics.
The war is intensifying. Explosions echoed across the Kursk region. The skies are thick with smoke. The fighting is relentless. Moscow accused Ukraine of launching a new offensive in western Russia's Kursk region, where Russian forces have struggled for months to secure control. Ukrainian officials claim that Russia has suffered devastating losses, including up to a battalion of North Korean infantry and elite paratroopers. Russia claims that it has killed or wounded 340 Ukrainian soldiers in the area. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken described Kursk as critical to Ukraine's position in future negotiations.
Their position in Kursk is an important one because certainly it's something that would factor in to any negotiation that may come about in the coming year. I think it's going to be very, very important that if this gets to a point where there is negotiation and where there is eventually a ceasefire.
Kyiv is now saying that security guarantees will only work if US provides them.
Without the United States, security guarantees are not possible. I mean these security guarantees that can prevent Russian aggression. Without Trump and without the United States of America, there won't be NATO.
Рассорить меня с Трампом.
Russia continues to capture new territories. These are images from Kurakov in the Donetsk region, where Russian forces are celebrating the capture of the crucial town. The victory for the Russians came after months of brutal fighting. The town has been under relentless attacks from artillery, multiple rocket launchers, powerful guided bombs and drones that have shattered buildings. Kurakov's thermal power plant, reservoir and position on a vital highway make it a crucial victory for Moscow. There are fears that the capture will embolden Russian troops to move more fiercely towards Pokrovsk, which is a key road junction and a rail distribution center furnishing supplies to a broad span of the Ukrainian front line. Russia has been driving westward in a slow and costly effort to capture all of Donetsk. Ukraine is short of troops on the front lines and is training to hold back the bigger Russian army. The conflict enters a new phase of uncertainty, with each side seeking to strengthen its negotiating position through battlefield gains. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
On to Canada now. It is at the cusp of a major political change, with reports saying that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is likely to announce his resignation. Trudeau will be making a public address in a short while from now. The move follows a growing leadership crisis, in fact, within his Liberal Party and a plummeting popularity nationwide. Trudeau is facing intense pressure amid record inflation, a housing crisis, rising food prices and voter fatigue. Recent polls showing the Liberal Party at a record low of 16% support, its worst pre-election performance in over a century. In October, 24 backbench Liberal MPs signed a letter urging him to step down, fearing a massive electoral loss in next year's federal election. In fact, the situation worsened further in December with the shock resignation of the Deputy Prime Minister. In fact, Justin Trudeau is speaking right now. Let's cut straight across.
Of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. Mes chers amis, comme vous savez, je suis un fighter. Dans mon fort intérieur, je me suis toujours battu parce que je me soucie profondément des Canadiens. Je serai toujours motivé parce qu'il est dans le meilleur intérêt des Canadiens. Et le fait est que malgré tous les efforts déployés pour passer à travers, le Parlement est paralysé depuis des mois, après ce qui a été la plus longue session de Parlement minoritaire dans l'histoire de notre pays. C'est pourquoi ce matin, j'ai rencontré la gouverneure générale pour lui faire savoir que nous avions besoin d'une nouvelle session du Parlement. Elle a accédé à ma demande et la Chambre sera donc prorogée.
All right, like we were mentioning just a short while back, that Canada stands at a crucial juncture. Remember, reports have been doing the rounds about what lies ahead for Justin Trudeau and the fact that he is likely to step down. And there he is, delivering that statement, starting off with, on a rather emotional note, in fact, and then going on to say that he intends to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister. Also saying, going ahead to say that the country deserves a real choice in the election and that he cannot be the best option in the election. That's a categorical statement coming in there from Justin Trudeau amid the many questions that have been doing the rounds regarding his future, regarding the country's future, and regarding the uncertainty which has engulfed the country for the last few months, in fact, and given the many crises that have been coming about, and Justin Trudeau there delivering that statement, saying that he intends to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, and also talking about the road ahead, talking about how the election, the country deserves a real choice in the election and that he cannot be the best option in the election. Let's just go back to what he is saying as of now.
Portera les valeurs et les idées du Parti libéral dans la prochaine élection. J'ai hâte d'observer le déroulement de ce processus dans les mois à venir. Nous avons été élus pour la troisième fois en 2021 pour renforcer l'économie après la pandémie et faire progresser, défendre le libre-échange sur notre continent, pour notre soutien inébranlable de l'Ukraine et de la démocratie, et pour lutter contre les changements climatiques et préparer l'économie de l'avenir. Nous traversons
Trudeau has
vraiment
delivered that statement amid the many questions and the speculation that has been doing the rounds regarding his future and regarding the country's future. Remember those reports that talked about how he is likely to step down, but those were just reports. There was a lot of speculation as well about how the country now stands at that crucial juncture. And he was expected to make that public address, so it's not a surprise at all, the fact that he is delivering that statement. Now he has come out and said that he will be resigning as Prime Minister, as party leader. Now remember, this move comes after a growing leadership crisis within his Liberal Party, also plummeting popularity nationwide, and those have been the two key concerns as far as his political future as the country's leader, and also his standing as far as the political scenario is concerned has been there. Remember that major hit that also came in following the resignation of the Deputy Prime Minister and the speculation that that move triggered. the shock resignation of the Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. Her exit was in a way a direct rebuke of Trudeau's ability to handle major challenges. Remember, that was also a point which further ignited a debate regarding Trudeau's handling of various situations, and also put him under renewed pressure given his standing already. How can we not mention the growing economic pressure on Justin Trudeau and the kind of anger that has triggered and the way it has impacted his popularity rankings as well. Like we said, in October, as many as 24 backbench Liberal MPs signed a letter urging him to step down. So this is not something that has happened overnight. This has been brewing for a while now. Let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who's been tracking those developments. Susan, first up, if you can just contextualize this for our viewers.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, this is not something that has been happening overnight. We did expect the Canadian Prime Minister to come out and speak not only to his people, but to the world, and tell them that he's stepping aside. And the reason for this, just to put it into context, is three main reasons. On the one hand, you had voter dissatisfaction. On the other hand, you had infighting within his own party, which he said during his resignation speech it was hard to govern. And then also his most important cabinet minister resigned, really criticizing his policies out in the open. On the one hand, he tried to bribe voters with $250 during holiday time. She found that to be ridiculous. On the other hand, there were some of his social policies as well that a lot of voters just weren't getting back behind. His problems really did start, Molly, you may remember, during those demonstrations by the truckers in Canada after COVID-19. That's really when things went downhill for Trudeau. But nonetheless, he said that he's going to stay in power until a new leader is elected. And, we'll have to wait and see how things move forward. This is very important for the United States, of course, shares a border with Canada, concerns about border security. We have trade deals together. So it's important not only for Canadians, but for the United States as well.
Right. Susan, as we were just outlining for our viewers, it's been a multi-pronged crisis, and the way his popularity rankings have been impacted as well, and what that also tells us about the kind of anger and the kind of discontent on the ground, be it the economic policies and also, of course, the shock resignation that came in from the Deputy Prime Minister, which renewed pressure on Justin Trudeau. There's also been the aspect of Donald Trump's America First policies. And, we have also talked about the equation between the two sides that has not also really worked out well for Justin Trudeau and has impacted and triggered the set of concerns for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, that meeting at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump, where he decided to come and meet him in person, was very telling about who was calling the shots during that meeting. Obviously, Donald Trump was making jokes about how he's going to take over Canada. Canada's going to become the 51st state, and Justin Trudeau is going to be governor. He called Trudeau governor a few times. You don't really speak to someone who you think has a political future or is an equal on leadership level like that, especially just coming into office again. So it's clear that perhaps the United States knew that this was coming for Canada. Canadians definitely knew. And then you talk about the America First agenda. I think a lot of Canadians saw this turn for the United States, voting for someone like Donald Trump and, the promises that he made. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how much of that is going to be achieved. But Canadians were feeling the pressure themselves because of a lot of socioeconomic issues that Trudeau was pursuing for more than a decade. And like I said, those COVID protests by the truckers, and then also a slew of other things that were social, but then affected their economic lives as well, really triggered their thought process of thinking, well, we want a Canada First situation as well. I mean, you talk to people on the ground in Canada, they're very dissatisfied with the job market, with how they're being paid, with their minimum wage on the one hand, and on the other hand, how the government isn't really taking notice of the economic problems and is focusing on social issues more and more. And I think that was very similar to what happened here in the United States as well. They thought Trudeau is a tone-deaf leader to their real concerns, the working-class Canadians. And so I think that's why we saw moving that way. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see, how much Canada is going to really change under the new leadership. But it'll be interesting to see how it's going to work in relation with the United States. You have trade deals, like I mentioned. You have border issues right now, and how Donald Trump hopes to work with Canadians.
Indeed, Susan, as we were mentioning, that address by the Canadian leader started off on a rather emotional note and then went on to address some of the thoughts that Justin Trudeau has had. He did announce that that the country stands at a critical moment and how he is a fighter. Before which he announced categorically that he intends to resign as party leader, as prime minister, that the country deserves a real choice in the election and that he cannot be the best option in the election.
For months, after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. Mes chers amis, comme vous savez, je suis un fighter. Dans mon fort intérieur.
All right, so that was Justin Trudeau delivering that address, which, as we said, was anticipated, and now he's made that announcement, speculation regarding which has been doing the rounds. We're leaving it there for the moment. We'll, of course, keep a close eye out for the latest coming in on that front. Also thanking Susan Tehrani for getting us those updates. Shifting focus for now to what Pope Francis has said. He has cautioned against gossiping, emphasizing that it can be poisonous and destructive, damage relationships, and undermine trust within communities. Now, he was addressing a group of nuns belonging to the Union of St. Catherine of Siena missionary teachers at the Vatican, delivering a strong message against gossip in religious communities. Pope Francis urged the Dominican nuns to always be positive, have a sense of demeanor, and distance themselves from tales. He also encouraged the nuns to be mindful of their facial expressions, warning against having vinegar faces that can repel others. In addition to his warnings about gossip, the Pope advised the nuns to avoid engaging in dialogue with the devil, citing the example of Jesus Christ, who never spoke with Satan. The Pope urged the nuns to be vigilant against the devil's influence, despite the controversy surrounding his own words. Some believe that the Pope's warning is only a reminder to people to build harmonious and supportive environments. Are you single or not? No matter which side of the table you're on, one word is sure to get you worked up: breakup or divorce if you're married. And here we are talking about a whole day dedicated to divorce. Today is International Divorce Day. And while we don't wish that upon anyone, let's just tell you how this day really came to be. The first working Monday of the year is being dubbed Divorce Day. Reports suggest January often sees a rise in breakups. And why is that? You see, many couples find the holiday season as a rather tough time and view it as the last straw for their relationship. And they tend to wait until the new year to declare that the relationship may have hit a roadblock. Not just that, even in legal circles, January has earned the title of an official divorce month. As per a report by a US publication in the state of Washington, divorce filings from 2001 to 2015 increased in the month of January drastically as opposed to December. This is according to a 2016 University of Washington study. As per another study, searches for terms like DIY divorce, quickie divorce, divorce my partner increased by more than 100% in the new year. In January, there was a 30% increase in inquiries for divorce attorneys. What could be the reasons? Personal incompatibility, financial worries perhaps, or just getting overwhelmed with having a family to maintain. Experts suggest often it's a combination and more that compel both sides to call it an end, sometimes amicably, sometimes not. And it's not just about the two partners, sometimes children, elderly parents, other stakeholders as well. Divorce of all things can be emotionally painful and can inspire all kinds of thoughts. Remember, no matter what you're going through, remember to reach out to a trusted friend, colleague, or your therapist. Reach out for help, someone who can guide you about how to navigate it all. Two years into its new and reformed era, the Golden Globes returned to the full form with all A-listers in attendance and several feel-good wins. Leading the list of winners were The Brutalists, Emilia Perez and Xiong'an. The Brutalists, a drama telling the story of a Holocaust survivor turned immigrant architect in the US, won 3 awards for Best Film, Drama, Actor for Adrian Brody and Director for the actor-turned-filmmaker Brady Corbett.